everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. You know, I'll always be surprised with the choices that our patrons have when it comes to voting on topics. Because rather than a witch ninja on Psylocke from Marvel Rivals, you know, the real successor to Overwatch in more ways than one, as well as a yokai hunters on Monster Hunter Wilds, which, come on man, it's a new main title in Monster Hunter. Instead, the majority asked to go back in time by 40 years to look into one of the most bizarre Transformers of Gen 1, Nightbird, a human-made female robot ninja of all things that gave the Autobots a run for their money. And you know what? I couldn't be happier. Maybe it's my very real nostalgia for Transformers, maybe it's considering this is a ninja character from the 80s, things are gonna go off the rails in a matter of seconds, or maybe it's the fact that I've spent way too much time watching another YouTuber who has a self-proclaimed unhealthy relationship with Transformers, and who also speaks in reused static PNGs. But seeing so many wanting to hear about our take on Nightbirds really got me going, so... can I help you?
Dude, we can't just talk about Nightbird.
I mean, this is Witch Ninja. That's kind of what we do on the show, right?
Correct, but there's way too much in this episode that I have to talk about besides just Nightbird. Not only does this one episode have some of the most meme-worthy scenes in the entirety of the franchise, but there's also a lot relating to Japan in the 80s that I just can't be quiet about. Look, you can handle all the ninja analysis with Nightbird, but as a 90s kid and lover of Japanese culture, let me just have a little bit of retrospective fun.
Man, you're a lot chipper than normal. What's got your energy up?
I'm telling you, man, it's the Helix mattress. Look, everyone, regardless of sponsorships, this bed has been such a freaking godsend in my lower back. Plus, I mean, just look at Aki. I keep finding her periodically in this position whenever we wash our sheets. And look, I know you guys have heard me yammering on about Helix and past integrations, with this sponsored message not being very different, but some of you have mentioned that you just don't have the scratch to get a full-on new mattress. Well, I got something cool that I want to show you, and the big reason I wanted to take on this sponsorship. Helix has rolled out 4 new mattress toppers. The Dual Comfort Topper for couples who have different sleep preferences, the Ergo Align Topper for folks like myself who need firm lower back support, the Premium Topper for people who need hip and shoulder relief, and finally the Premium Memory Foam Topper, which has that body melding ability to keep your body level and comfortable. I personally opted into the Ergo Align Topper, as I'm not getting any younger and my back is reminding me of that constantly. And for being a mattress topper, it goes above and beyond what I've used prior to get a little extra comfort. What makes it help my lower back is that super dense foam between the waist and the calves, which adds extra support in the most needed place, right in the lower back where I need the most spine support. And the really cool thing about these toppers, they're packed exactly like Helix's mattresses are. Delivered right to your front door in an incredibly easy to manage box, completely vacuum sealed, and all you really need to do is break the seal, unwind the packaging, and just let it floof right up. I can't speak on the other 3 as I haven't really tried them yet, but based on my experience with the Ergo Align, if you can't get a completely new mattress, this is absolutely a worthwhile stopgap. But that being said, for the entire month of April, Helix is having a 20% site-wide sale, saving you upwards of $350 on their premier mattresses, which you've heard me talking about them several times before in past videos, and you know how much I love them. So if you want to start your spring cleaning off right with chucking out your old mattress for the best sleep you're ever gonna get, or supplement what you have with Helix's best, hit up my link in the description and be sure to take their sleep test so you can get the exact kind of mattress that you need. Every mattress includes a 100-night sleep trial to make sure you're 100% happy with your order, with a 10-year warranty and free shipping in the US too. It really is some of the best sleep I've ever gotten, and it's got me absolutely fired up for today.
Well, good to know you're spry, because based on how long this episode's looking, there's a lot that we gotta tear into with not just Nightbird, but the entire episode in general. Like, just take the title of this episode for example, Enter the Nightbird. This is obviously a shout out to 1981's Enter the Ninja, which despite having average to poor reviews, this was one of the movies that truly helped Shinobi Fever take over the US. Also, this movie is absolutely and unintentionally hilarious.
And now I'm gonna kill you.
Now, getting into the episode proper, Wheeljack is working on yet another invention for the Autobots. Detection floor panels to stop intruders, and immediately I could not help but jump to conclusions. Are these based on the Japanese Ugui Subari nightingale floors that purposely squeak when walked over, making it difficult if not impossible for ninjas skulking about to walk through them?
Yeah, but that was pretty short-lived as the Autobots are interrupted by a call from Dr. Fujiyama, the quote, famous roboticist. Alright, for one, how in the world does this one random scientist in Japan have the Autobots on speed dial? Like, maybe I missed some character development in the comics or something, but how? Also, Fujiyama? Really? Bro, this guy's name is literally Mount Fuji. I mean, technically Japan pronounces it Fujisan with the Onyomi reading of the mountain character for kanji, but Kunyomi is straight up Yama. Now, there is a surname of Fujiyama that's more like Westria Mountain, but it's not exactly all that common. Plus, this is the United States in the 80s. Not exactly the most enlightened time for the US when it comes to Japanese or even Asian culture in general. Shoot, the guy's name in the Japanese dub of Transformers is Hamada, so why didn't they just use that?
You know, who the heck voices Fujiyama anyway? Michael Bell? Ugh. Well, I mean, a non-Asian voice acting as an Asian isn't the absolute end of the world. I mean, Phil Lamar voiced Samurai Jack, and I thought he did a pretty good job. What else did Bell voice? Duke from G.I. Joe? Wait. Lance from Voltron? Drew Pickles? Oh god, worlds colliding, make it stop!
I will say, though, that I don't find his portrayal to be all that bad. There were far worse depictions of Japanese people in the 80s. While Bell's accent strays into uncharted waters from time to time, the writing is pretty representative. He does have an appropriately deep bow for greetings and leavings, and the one thing that I noticed and really appreciate is how humble Dr. Fujiyama was despite being this absolute progeny of robotics. He straight up says that his creation is nothing compared to Autobot tech while holding his hand behind his head. And if you know anything about Japanese sociological rules, it's that humility dang near runs the country. Doesn't matter if you're a CEO of a company, in a public space talking to third-party individuals, you keep yourself humble. And I think Transformers actually did a good job here. Not to mention, considering Japanese electronic goods were dominating the US market in the 80s and the robot revolution Japan was going through at the time, to have Nightbird be made in Japan makes a lot of sense for the time.
Well, how about we talk about actual ninja in this Witch Ninja episode, eh? At Nightbird's unveiling, Optimus casually asks, skill and daring? Sure. Assassins? Sometimes, Jazz, sometimes. Warrior? No. We've said it plenty of times before, but the concept of ninjutsu is not a martial art form. Granted, lots of ninja had martial arts training to supplement their skills, but for ninja, being dexterous, hyper-aware of your surroundings, having great physical endurance, and being resourceful were far more important skills than being good at combat. And that's when we're finally introduced to Nightbird proper, and good lord almighty, just look at this gal's loadout! Not only is she by default carrying nunchaku in one hand, but she's got two swords on her back and sai on each forearm. Oh god, Nightbird really is an 80s ninja, isn't she? I thought to myself. I mean, ninja have always been equated to exotic-looking weapons like these, especially in the 80s, but nunchaku and sai were products of China brought to Okinawa and the Ryukyu Islands. They didn't hit popularity in the mainland until well after the golden age of ninja during the Sengoku Jidai Warring States period. And not to mention, these weren't exactly super popular martial weapons in Japan either, considering the reach of the Yari, Naginata, and even the Tachi was superior to any of these. But Nightbird has none of these staple weapons. Not even Kama or Kusarigama, which were pop culture staples of Shinobi. What? You built a ninja robot? Complete with size-appropriate nunchaku, sai, and tachi on her back, completely capable of infiltration and combat. And the answer of to why boils down to, because I want to see if I could? Alright, whatever sell these toys, Hasbro, I guess.
Long action scene short, Megatron makes off with Nightbird, and dude, this is where it just gets weird. I know it's not related to Japan or ninjas, but I cannot help but point out how much Megatron and Optimus have this weird thing for Nightbird. I guess for Optimus, it makes more sense. I mean, he promised Fujiyama he'd get Nightbird back unscathed, but man, does he go about not wanting to hurt Nightbird pretty intimately. And then Megatron! Man, this is the first and only time I've ever seen Megatron get this emotionally invested in anyone besides himself. In fact, the C-plot of this episode is Starscream getting jealous that Nightbird will replace him as Megatron's right-hand man, to the point where Starscream ends up being the one to stop Nightbird, and instead of continuing to fight and getting the episode's MacGuffin, Megatron turns around to chase down Starscream for harming Nightbird. Again, I know this has nothing to do with ninjas or Japan, but I think the comments section would have had a meltdown if I didn't point this out.
Anyway, after some upgrades and reprogramming, Megatron sends out Nightbird on her mission to steal the world energy chip from the Autobots and then eliminate them. Which she honestly never tries to do the latter. I mean, infiltrating and stealing are her main objectives, and that's actually what makes her a far better ninja than I anticipated. Heck, it's not just her objective, but the way she goes about it is actually really surprising to me. Because if Nightbird was a stereotypical 80s ninja, she'd jump through a window dramatically and start beating the ever-loving crap out of every Autobot on her way to the chip she came to steal. But no. She uses an integrated Kaginawa, one of the Shinobi Rokugu, or 6 key tools of the ninja, in order to climb up top and work her way down, capitalizing on another known Shinobi technique of hidden traversal, the Tanuki Gakure no Jutsu. See, people tend to only pay attention to about a 45-degree angle to their vision, thus ninja would sneak about in Inin fashion, trying to stay in that psychological blind spot, oftentimes in trees, which mirrors the way Tanuki would climb, forage, and hang out in trees as well, thus the name. And give the gal credit, ladies and gentlemen, she capitalizes on this remarkably well as she perches above Spike and Prowl of all Autobots. Yes, everyone, I know Prowl is also a Shinobi Transformer. I'll get to him, alright? There's just a lot of his lore to dig through. And just a few more moments in the episode and, oh man, there's the Chekhov's gun of the episode, the sensor panels. I wonder if Nightbird's gonna do some kind of ninja stereotype of long jumping them impossibly far and... Oh. Well, shut me up then! Those are Ashiko! Well, they're more like maglock boots, but symbolically she's using Ashiko. In conjunction with Shuko, these were essentially cleats for a ninja's hands and feet in order to climb up dirt, stone, or even wood. Granted, ninja couldn't walk upside down like Nightbird can, but they could climb a lot of different surfaces with these two tools. I gotta say too, Nightbird is surprisingly good at staying hidden despite being a 30-foot tall robot. And she jacks that world energy chip fast, but she's quickly caught by Mirage, who's in too much shock to notice being punched in the freaking throat, preventing him from verbally calling out for help. And that's yet another thing in Nightbird's favor in terms of being a real ninja. You'd expect an 80s ninja to just quickly dispatch any enemy with over-the-top, overpowered strikes, right? But Nightbird goes directly for a weak point and the one thing that would keep Mirage from calling for help. She's trying to disorient Mirage to make a quick getaway rather than just straight up ending him. Well done! But after Mirage trips a base alarm, Optimus and the Autobots have her cornered when... Okay... I mean, I guess I can let this slide. Ninja loved using integrated and hidden weapons, so why should this be any... Oh, they're just shuriken stand-ins. Okay then. Alright, I know that may have seemed really freaking weird to everyone, but that was a legit shinobi jutsu. Now, I know a lot of you have heard of the Shunshin no Jutsu from stuff like Naruto, but when combined with a Metsubushi of sorts, it was a solid psychological escape trick. Now, Metsubushi, or eye closers, were anything that performed its namesake. Packages of pepper, dust, and dirt thrown at the face, blown into the eye, or even something like a Bakuchiku firecracker with substantial light and sound. These things were used to stun the senses of the opponent, and while they're reeling, the ninja would quickly move to escape. The trick here is fabricating the perception of time. Someone who had their senses overstimulated will be in psychological shock for a brief moment, which, once their senses return to them, the whole ordeal would only feel like a moment when it's actually been several seconds. Thus, to find the ninja nowhere to be seen, or seen very far away, now gives the perception of teleportation. It's really neat stuff, and despite the fact that Nightwing does it spinning around like Linda Carter, I mean, it's goofy, but it's legit. Nightbird ultimately escapes, but is tracked down by the Autobots who are able to get a clean shot in her back, knocking her out. However... Okay, first of all, Roboto Possum? Second of all, Ninja never played Possum. Hiding in plain sight using techniques like the Uzura Gakure no Jutsu were one thing, But the absolute last thing a ninja would allow to happen is for their enemies to draw closer to them, usually carrying spears, knowing exactly that this is a targeted ninja. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've never heard of a single shinobi jutsu that boiled down to playing possum just to let your enemies get close. Because when your enemies get close, you're usually dead. This, though, this is something that makes Nightbird pretty ninja. See, she's got all these different compartments for storing tools on her person or just shove stolen goods in like the energy chip, right? Well, this mirrors a shinobi's means sneaking shozoku really well. Because if there's anything that a shinobi shozoku has, it's pockets. With upwards of 6 different pockets sewn into the uagoromo of the outfit. Whether it was to put protective plating in front of vital organs or the transportation of tools or stolen items, Shinobi had more pockets than a pair of 2015 cargo shorts. I mean, wait, why did Nightbird steal Optimus's rifle? No, dude, that's not a thing with ninja. Are we confusing ninja with samurai again? Because, yeah, samurai would take the heads of defeated enemies as proof of victory to their generals and daimyo in order to get paid, so to speak, but habitual kleptomania was never a thing with ninja. Anyway, the Autobots track down Nightbird again, and... oh, Nightbird, you're starting to lose your ninja cred. And sticking around to brawl in a 7-on-1 fight, yeah, not the best idea for a ninja. You know, it's weird. Nightbird went from staying focused on the mission and not getting tangled up in fights before, but now she's starting to fall into that invincible ninja trope of just countering everything the Autobots throw at her with random bullcrap. But, give the show credit, like any ninja would, she's quickly overpowered and captured, prompting Megatron to come and save her as the C-plot with Starscream wraps up. Man, that is still so freaking weird. But you know how it goes. The Decepticons are stopped and Nightbird's returned to Dr. Fujiyama, who plans to put Nightbird in permanent storage. But... all in all, considering just how ludicrous the 80s and 90s ninja craze portrayed ninjas being this ultimate badass unstoppable warrior, I think G1 Transformers actually did a decent job. There's very obviously a lot of one-to-one inspirations going on here. And even when it feels like Nightbird was getting a little too one-man army-ish, there were actual negative consequences to it. Despite obviously not looking like it, she did act like a historical ninja would. And you know, in retrospect, the fact that she never did use her trope weapons like the nunchaku or sai, and that she was completely silent the entire time, never giving away her voice, I think all of this made her pretty historically solid. Her design might be 80s over-the-top tropes through and through, but her actions or inactions were pretty ninja. Either way, thanks for watching everyone, and a big thanks to Helix for sponsoring this video. If you want to grab a brand new mattress or even just one of Helix's prime mattress toppers with a 20% site-wide sale, check out our link in the description. Finally, the biggest thank you to our patrons. Seriously, I love the fact that you all want to hear about this absolute relic of a nostalgic ninja rather than all of this new modern stuff that we got going on. Hopefully we will get into some of this newer stuff, but this trip back to the 80s was an absolute gas. So if you want to learn even more about Japan through your favorite games, anime, movies, and more, sub up, get notified, and until next time everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.